morning students. Chapter 11, Chemical Coordination and Integration. In today's class we are going to discuss the topic adrenal gland. The other name for adrenal gland is suprarenal gland. Why the name suprarenal gland means a pair of adrenal glands are located at the top of each kidney. So it is called as suprarenal glands. Anatomically, the adrenal gland is divided into two regions. The outer region is called as the cortex and the inner region is called as the medulla. Histologically, the adrenal cortex is again divided into three distinct zones. They are zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata and zona reticularis. So the cortex is divided into three zones. The zona glomerulosa is the outer thin layer which constitutes about 15% of the adrenal cortex. So 15% of adrenal cortex is occupied with zona glomerulosa and it secretes a hormone called as mineralocorticoids. The middle layer, zona fasciculata, it is the middle widest layer which constitutes about 75% of the adrenal cortex and it secretes a hormone glucocorticoids such as cortisol, corticosterone and trace amounts of adrenal androgen and estrogen. Next, the inner layer is the zona reticularis. It is the inner zone of adrenal cortex and it constitutes about 10% of the adrenal cortex and secretes the adrenal androgen, trace amount of estrogen and glucocorticoids. So in this picture you can able to see the adrenal gland is located at the top of the kidney. So on top of each kidney a pair of adrenal gland is present. Left kidney contains one adrenal gland and right kidney contains one adrenal gland at the top. So this is the structure of adrenal gland. So the adrenal gland is covered by an outer covering called capsule and it is divided into two distinct regions. The outer region is cortex and the inner region is medulla. In the medullary region, blood vessels are present. Again, the outer region cortex is divided into three zones. The outer zone is zona glomerulosa, the middle zone is zona fasciculata and the inner zone is zona reticularis. Now we will see the functions of adrenal hormones. Glucocorticoids stimulate the gluconeogenesis, lipolysis and proteolysis. So all these are the life-saving activity. Cortisol is a glucocorticoid involved in maintaining the cardiovascular and kidney function. So the hormone cortisol is mainly involved in maintaining the heart and kidney function and it also produces anti-inflammatory reactions and suppresses the immune response. It also stimulates the RBC production and it is also known as the stress combat hormone. The mineralocorticoids, it regulates the water and electrolyte balance of our body. And aldosterone stimulates the reabsorption of sodium and water and eliminates the minerals potassium and phosphate ions through the excretion. Thus, it helps in maintaining the electrolyte balance, osmotic pressure and blood pressure. The adrenal androgen plays a role in hair growth in the axial region, pubic region and face during the time of puberty. So these are the hormones which are secreted by the adrenal cortex. So the hormones which are secreted by the adrenal cortex are glucocorticoids, that is cortisol, mineralocorticoids, aldosterone. Next we will see the adrenal medulla. So the inner layer is the adrenal medulla. It secretes the hormone adrenaline, or otherwise called as epinephrine, and noradrenaline. The other name for noradrenaline is norepinephrine. This hormone adrenaline and noradrenaline is referred as 3F hormone because it is secreted at the time of fight, flight and fright. They are called as fight, flight and fright hormone. So the name 3F hormone. The adrenaline increases the liver glycogen breakdown into glucose and increases the release of fatty acids from fat cells. And during the time of emergency, it increases the heartbeat and blood pressure. It stimulates the smooth muscles of the cutaneous and visceral arteries to decrease the blood flow. It also increases the blood flow to the skeletal muscles, thereby increase the metabolic rate of skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles and nervous tissue. So the other name for this hormone is emergency hormone. Adrenaline and noradrenaline is called as emergency hormones because it is secreted in our body at the time of emergency. When we hear any shocking news or when we met any accident, this hormone is secreted. So at that time our heartbeat increases, our respiration rate increases, our pupil dilates. So all these are the symptoms of that is adrenaline and noradrenaline. So this is about the adrenal gland. So the adrenal gland is otherwise called as the suprarenal gland. It is divided into two regions, adrenal cortex and adrenal medulla. Adrenal cortex secretes some hormones and adrenal medulla secretes some hormones. Adrenal cortex secretes glucocorticoids such as cortisol, cortisterone and trace amounts of adrenal androgen and estrogen. And the adrenal medulla secretes the adrenaline and noradrenaline. Next we will see the hormones of heart, kidney and gastrointestinal tract. I already told you kidney, heart and gastrointestinal tract, that is the alimentary canal, acts partially as an endocrine gland. Some tissues of the heart, kidney and the gastrointestinal tract acts as partial endocrine glands. In the heart, the cardiocytes, that is the cells of the heart, it is present on the atrial wall. It secretes an important peptide hormone called as atrial natriuretic factor, that is ANF. When blood pressure is increased, the atrial natriuretic factor is secreted and it causes the dilation, that is the expansion of the blood vessels to reduce the blood pressure. So this hormone is secreted, that is atrial natriuretic factor is secreted at the time of, that is, blood pressure. Next, in kidneys, hormones such as renin, erythropoietin and calcitriol are secreted. The renin is secreted by the juxtaglomerular cells, that is JGA, which increases the blood pressure when angiotensin is formed in the blood. And erythropoietin is also secreted by the juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney and it stimulates the erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis means that is formation of RBCs in the bone marrow. Then Calcitriol, it is a hormone secreted by the proximal tubules of nephron. It is an active form of vitamin D3. This hormone promotes the calcium and phosphorus absorption from intestine and it accelerates the bone formation. Next is the hormones of the gastrointestinal tract. So, group of specialized endocrine cells are present in the gastrointestinal tract. They secrete hormones such as gastrins, cholecytokinin, CCK, secretin and gastric inhibitory peptides. The hormone gastrin acts on the gastric glands and it stimulates the secretion of the HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, in the stomach and pepsinogen. Cholecytokinin, it is secreted by the duodenum in response to the presence of fat and acid in the diet. So, if fat and acid are more in the diet, the hormone cholecytokinin is secreted in the duodenum. It acts on the gallbladder to release the bile juice into duodenum and stimulates the secretion of the pancreatic enzymes and its discharge, which helps in the digestion of fat. Next, secretin acts on the acinine cells of pancreas to secrete the bicarbonate ions and water to neutralize the acidity. And the gastric inhibitory peptide, it stops the gastric secretions and motility. So, it is called as gastric inhibitory peptide. So, these are the hormones of the heart, kidney and gastrointestinal tract. Next, we will see the mechanism of hormone action. The hormones, they circulate in the blood, but their concentration can increase or decrease based on the requirement of the body. It is controlled by the feedback mechanisms. These mechanisms control the secretion of the endocrine glands by stimulating the hypothalamus, pituitary or both, which in turn governs the secretion of the particular hormone. So, the hypothalamus secretes the releasing factor and it in turn stimulates the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland secretes some hormones which stimulates the endocrine glands to produce the hormones. So, there are two types of feedback, positive feedback and negative feedback. In positive feedback, the secretion of the hormone is increased, whereas in negative feedback, the secretion of the hormone is decreased or slows down. So, feedback mechanism, that is positive and negative feedback mechanisms, are the key factors for maintaining homeostasis in our body. The hormones are classified into three major groups. One is peptide hormones, another is steroid hormones, and the another one is amino acid derived hormones, which are based on the chemical structure. The peptide hormones, in this picture you can able to see, they cannot able to cross the phospholipid cell membrane. So, this hormone cannot able to cross the cell membrane. So, it binds to the receptor on the exterior surface of the cell membrane. They are transported to the Golgi, which is the site of modification. It acts as the first messenger in the cell. The hormones on binding to the receptors do not enter the target cell, but they will generate the production of second messengers such as the cyclic AMP, that is CAMP, which in turn regulates the cellular metabolism. This is catalyzed by the enzyme adenylate cyclase. The interaction between the hormone at the surface and the effect brought about by the CAMP within the cell is known as the signaling cascade, and each step there is a possibility by amplification. One hormone molecule will bind to multiple receptor molecule before it is degraded. Each receptor may activate several adenylate cyclases, each of which make much CAMP. Thus, there is more signal after each step. The actions of cyclic AMP are terminated by the phosphodiesterase. The effect of the peptide hormones. Peptide hormones are insulin, glucagon, somatotropin. So these are peptide hormones and they are usually short-lived. Their life is only for a short duration because they work through the second messenger system. So they cannot, these hormones, the peptide hormones cannot able to enter the cell directly. It acts as first messenger and gives signal to the second messenger. Next is steroid hormones. They can cross easily the cell membrane and they will bind to the receptors which are intracellular or intranuclear. Upon binding to the receptors, they pair with another receptor hormone complex, that is dimerase. This dimer can then bind to the DNA and alter its transcription. So the effect of steroid hormones such as aldosterone, estrogen, FSH are long-lived and they alter the amount of messenger RNA and protein in a cell. So the effect of the steroid hormones are long-lasting and they can easily enter the cell membrane and bind to the receptors. In this picture, you can able to see the mechanism of the steroid hormone action. The steroid hormones easily enter the cross the cell membrane and binds to the receptors present. Next is the amino acid derivatives. They are derived from one or two amino acid with a few additional modifications. Thyroid hormone is synthesized from tyrosine and includes the addition of several iodine atoms. Epinephrine, it is an amino acid derivative, may function through the second messenger system like the peptide hormones, and they may actually enter the cell and function like the steroid hormones. So this is the mechanism of the hormone action. So hormones work by positive and negative feedback mechanism. This only makes the homeostasis of the body, that is the normal functioning of the body, and it is divided into or classified into three major groups: peptide hormones, steroid hormones and amino acid derivatives. So till this we are concluding this topic and go through this topic. Thank you.